how a developing system in the Northwest Caribbean could bring some significant impacts to parts of our area. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here with you at Meteo Mundo on this Sunday afternoon. Hope you've been having a great weekend so far. Coming up in this video, all the newest information on that disturbed weather in the Northwest Caribbean, how this will play out for our area. A tropical train wave with multiple tropical waves expected to come and impact our area over the next week or so. Plenty to get into in this video. As we get started, thank you so much for all of your comments and feedback in the last several videos, helping to tailor Meteo Mundo to your weather needs. I appreciate it. Let me know where you're viewing from and what the weather has been like while you're down there. Thank you so much for hitting the like button and helping to support Meteo Mundo. Let's get into it, friends. Okay, so we're looking at our enhanced satellite imagery, your live lightning data on this late Sunday afternoon. A few things to talk about. Again, our deep moisture plume continues over this area. We're drying out in our eastern zones, but there's another tropical wave that's going to be moving in to bring additional rain to some areas. Now, the water vapor imagery shows you that rich tropical moisture, and it's not moving much as of yet. We're still dry in the Gulf of Mexico, again, drying out central and the eastern sides of the Caribbean. But we'll get into what's going on this Sunday across the Northwest Caribbean. Back over to the enhanced satellite imagery. Now look, earlier in the day, we had a few showers over Cancun and Cozumel, areas desperate for rain. They're dry right now. A lot of the beefiest storms were offshore today, but we had a few showers along the Belize coastline earlier in the day, and hopefully trying to get just a little bit of that rain to sneak back along the coast and maybe even try and work its way inland. I don't expect a lot of rain for places like Orange City and San Ignacio and Belmopan, but San Pedro, Belize City, Dengrija, all with at least the opportunity for a couple of light showers. And look, if you don't get rain for today, don't worry about it. You're still under that rich moisture plume, still several more days of rain chances in this area. Generally speaking, with the heat of the day, we're really flaring up the storms here across Central America. So multiple storms around Roatan of the northern sides of Honduras and portions of Nicaragua. And again, this trend is going to continue. Now you get to the north and to the east here, and we've had some pretty heavy rain from time to time over the Cayman Islands on this Sunday afternoon. It's been hot, of course, when it's not been raining. Earlier in the day, we had more showers over Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, but now, just in the last hour or so, we've had some showers over Grand Cayman as well. So it's getting wetter in this area, and again, Cayman Islands certainly under this moisture plume. Storms have really been prolific across Cuba for today, really widespread across the island. Some of that activity has drifted into portions of the Bahamas. Now it's drier for Walker's Key and Grand Bahama and Eleuthera for today. You get a little bit farther off towards the south, towards Andros and New Providence and Eleuthera. Now we're seeing a few more showers and storms there. You can see the rain dropping the temperature down in Nassau. It's been even more prolific down into the central and the southeast Bahamas. There was actually a severe thunderstorm warning for Exuma early in the day. Places like Long Island and Cat Island, certainly in that abundance of moisture where showers and storms are likely. And the Bahamas are one of those areas that could be impacted by this area developing in the Northwest Caribbean coming up, and we'll highlight that as well. It's been a little bit quieter in the Turks and the Caicos. Still a few storms coming off the eastern tip of Cuba. Could bring a few storms, especially towards Matthewtown. It's also been a little bit quieter in the Jamaica for today. Can't rule out a few isolated showers still developing, but that moisture plume is a little bit farther off towards your west for today. Look at the feels like temperature in Montego Bay, now well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So drying out again for my friends in Jamaica, Old Harbor, Kingston, Port Antonio. Same scenario for most of Haiti and the Dominican Republic as well, where we're only going to get a rogue shower or storm. We've seen one develop there in the interior sections, and when it's not raining, look at the heat. Feels like numbers 110 to 115 Fahrenheit. 110, by the way, guys, in Fahrenheit is 43.3 degrees Celsius. It's also stinking hot through Puerto Rico and the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands. We're either going to have a heat advisory or excessive heat warnings continuing. It really is dangerous from time to time. feels like numbers again, 105 to 110, and not a lot of rain to break that heat. Let's get on over towards the northern side of the Leeward Islands right now. And again, we have a little bit of Saharan dust, so there's a little bit of haze, and there's basically dry conditions. And you're going to see a lot of feels like numbers here, again, at or above 100. Nevis today, like 108 for that feels like temperature for a brief time. Not much better in Barbuda and Antigua as well, Montserrat. Again, I can't rule out a rogue thunderstorm, but many dry hours and locations throughout the island chain for today. You can see Dominica and Martinique and St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Barbados is very hot as well. Again, an isolated storm is possible, but there's not much. Same thing for Grenada. Now you get down towards Trinidad and Tobago, and we're on the far northwest side of our next tropical wave coming in. So we are going to see a few showers and storms for Trinidad and Tobago as we go through the remainder of this Sunday afternoon and evening. And again, we're on the doorstep of richer moisture coming back in. And this will impact places from Barbados south more than anyone else, especially into South America. Still a low latitude tropical waves, so places like Suriname and Guyana and Venezuela are really going to get hammered again, but some of the windward islands will see it as well. And again, up towards portions of the ABC Islands, guys, I wish I had better news, but it's still hot and dry. Feels like numbers there still well above 100 degrees. Okay, so now we're going to get into the models. Okay, and as we're doing so, if you haven't hit that like button yet, please do so. And if you've been looking for your home for the forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found it. Thank you for subscribing right now to Meteo Mundo. So we're going to break this down in a few different ways. I'm going to show you the GFS and the NAM models. We'll also look at the European model output as well, because there are some differences in how the evolution of this plays out, where the heaviest rain is going to go, and some of the other hazards that could come along for the ride. First thing you're looking at is the GFS model over the next 5 days. So we start to see this area move north and east, but it also is a very elongated, sloppy system, okay? It's fighting dry air in the central side of the Gulf of Mexico. So all of the moisture is from the axis of development towards the east, with a huge plume of tropical moisture still coming in to portions of the Central America and the Northwest Caribbean. So these areas, even though this system is moving away, is still in that moisture fetch. So there could be some more significant rain for areas that really need it. And again, it's a pretty sloppy system as well. So this is the rain, and I do want to get into this, and then we're going to look at the winds associated with it. First of all, on the GFS model, it certainly is going to be impacting places like Cuba and the Cayman Islands and South Florida and the Bahamas with widespread heavy rain. There'll be some very blustery and breezy conditions. The Department of Meteorology in the Bahamas has already talked about issuing small craft advisories beginning on Tuesday. But it's a wet, sloppy system for us here where we can really see some heavier rain. Now, I can also bring on the contours of the pressure. So you're looking at the mean sea level pressure. And what I'm looking for here is their actual wrap up where we would get a low level center of circulation. Well, based on this, the answer from the GFS is essentially no, at least through 5 days, because again, we're fighting all of that dry air out there. And the other thing I can do here and I'm going to do it in a single frame, is I can actually bring on the winds as well, and we can look at that in numbers. And I just want to single frame this out, and we can take a look at this as well. So when we get to this area here at the end of the 5 days, I just want you to notice that even the winds on the GFS are still below tropical depression criteria. It's going to be very wet in the southeast Gulf of Mexico, but we have winds of 25 to 30 at best. And for the Bahamas, as we start to see that rain enter the picture, the winds are in the 15, 20 sustained with some higher gusts. So the bottom line is, over the next 5 days, you might even see a little kink in those pressures. The winds aren't supportive of a tropical depression. Doesn't mean we're not going to have a tropical disturbance, an elongated area of rain, and some potentially flooding rains, but it's a very sloppy system, at least over the next 5 days. You can really see that moisture feed there if you follow that isobar up, where that heavier rain will continue. So that's what it looks like here over the next 5 days on the GFS model. I'm going to take off some of the extra layers here, and then I'm going to loop this back up, and we're going to look at the rest of the forecast across their area as well. And then I'm going to get back into the NAM model and show you what the NAM model plays out. But again, I want to cover the rest of the area as well. Now you get to Jamaica, and you get a little bit farther east, we're going to see a few showers crop up. There could still be some locally heavy downpours for Kingston and Montego Bay and Negril, Savannah, Lamar, maybe favoring the western side of the island just a little bit more. You're closer to that richer moisture, but we're going to be drying out in general here a bit. We're going to be drying out through Hispaniola. It's about a 20% chance for a few storms developing there. Same thing for the Turks and the Caicos, where again, you're just a little bit farther south and east of where that moisture is. Now I'm going to show you the NAM model. It's a little bit wetter for places like the Turks and the Caicos, but that's about it. Look how dry it's going to be for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands here. Same thing for the northern side of Lesser Antilles. Guys, we're looking at about a 20% chance for showers at best over the next several days, and I do have your island by island rain outlook coming up here in just a second. Now, we get towards Dominica, Martinique, and St. Lucia. Tomorrow, we could see a few more showers, but really it's places like Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago that's going to have the best chance for better rain starting tomorrow with our next tropical wave. And you can see that here on our future track. This next swath of moisture comes through. It's a progressive tropical wave. Sorry about that, meaning that it's going to be moving fairly quickly. So as we get into our Tuesday morning, we're still going to have some showers around and at least through Tuesday afternoon. But by Tuesday evening, you can say goodbye to the rain and we begin to dry out. That next wave moves through. But again, it's not just the only game in town. There's yet more rich moisture coming back in. The biggest thing is, though, can we take this moisture and lift it farther north? Right now, these are still more equatorial tropical waves. They're still moving through low latitudes, so they're scraping the windward islands, but generally speaking, they're still going in to South America, so that's not helping areas up to the north. As I mentioned, the ABC Islands will mainly be dry out of this next scenario as well. Bermuda could catch a couple of showers with a mid-latitude system coming off of the United States East Coast on Tuesday. And then the Bahamas get to be very, very interesting. Nothing to really pinpoint yet, but the bottom line is almost all the models begin to make it very wet across the Bahamas starting on Tuesday and then through a lot of the next week ahead. Again, just that surge of moisture coming to the north, and especially being on the eastern side of whatever broad low tries to develop, just pushes all that towards the east. So again, very wet, very sloppy in those areas. Let's go over to the NAM real quick, and then we're going to look at your rain chance island by island for us here. But I do want to show you the NAM model, and then we'll get into the extended forecast as well. So I'm loading up the NAM, and you're going to look at a couple of different things here as this tries to load up here, and I hope it does. First of all, the NAM is a little bit more progressive system in nature, meaning that it's going to take this moisture and it's going to drive it farther north quicker. You're also going to notice that there's more of an inherent spin left over in the Northwest Caribbean and across Central America. It's just more defined on the NAM compared to the GFS model. You can see that twist, but it does the same thing, meaning that it keeps there a lot of rich moisture to develop showers and storms across Central America throughout the next 4 days. Again, it's just staying wet in this area. This is just a very active part where we're drier out east, we're wetter in our western and our northwest areas. But you can see the NAM really drives up this heavy rain along the Florida west coast. Now, it does keep portions of the Bahamas a little bit drier overall, right? That moisture is not as far east, but the European model is more in agreement with the GFS. But I just wanted to show you the NAM here. And then looking at the NAM again, you can see right at the end there, there's a little bit of a twist right there. If we take a look at the pressures that go along with the NAM, and I'm just going to take it out again to the extended time here, you can see it does try and wrap up something a little bit more significant, okay? We'll see how this plays out. Still fighting dry air and shear towards the west. Okay, so this would be an elongated, sloppy system. At the same time, right, I can bring on our 10-meter winds. And again, same time frame. So this is the NAM. And this one does support potential tropical depression, maybe even tropical storm strength. It can be discounted for now, based on other things that I've seen, but just to show you that the NAM is a stronger system overall, okay? And again, this time frame would be basically what, today is the 9th, So this is what, very late Wednesday into early on Thursday, okay? But I just want you to notice that all of the activity is on the eastern side of whatever tries to develop. The GFS and the European model are much weaker and much farther down here. But again, informational purposes. So let's break down the rain chance in your area. I've added additional areas, and I appreciate that feedback, and I will be rotating these. So if you don't see your specific name, first of all, there's gonna be somewhere very, very close to you, and more than likely, again, your name will be included as we go along. For the Northwest Bahamas, rain chances really begin to go up. Now, the central and the southeast side of the Bahamas might be a little bit drier through Tuesday. But if the GFS and the European model play out beginning on Wednesday, it becomes very wet across the entire islands. But the first surge of moisture would be for the Northwest Bahamas. Turks and the Caicos, just a few isolated showers out there. Again, nothing that I really deem, I think we're gonna see any more than scattered rain so far. Cuba stays very wet and stormy and could have very heavy rainfall. Same thing for the Cayman Islands, where again, under this tropical moisture plume, showers and storms break out each and every day. It's great to talk about a 50% chance in Belize City. Again, it doesn't mean we're gonna get rain every day in Belize. It doesn't mean it's drought busting rain, but at least the chance is there. And I hope you catch some of the heavier downpours. Cancun and Cozumel, rain chances going up as we go through Tuesday, up to a 60% chance. Jamaica, 50% chance down to a 40 on Monday and Tuesday. And again, some pockets of heavier rain out there. The Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands really begin to dry out. Please be careful of the heat in the afternoon. No rain for Bermuda for today. Isolated chances tomorrow and Tuesday. Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, same scenario there on the northern side of the Leeward Islands. It's a 20% chance. Antigua, Barbuda, Guadeloupe, Martinique, not going to be a lot of rain for this area, relatively dry. St. Lucia, again, slightly better chance with the next wave coming in on Monday at about a 30% clip. Barbados rain chances go up on Monday as well, and then tail off on Tuesday. Again, more concentrated, and Trinidad and Tobago could be some brief heavier rainfall with that tropical downpours, and the ABC Islands, again, unfortunately do remain relatively dry. Okay, let me get back out to the waves here. So now you're looking at our boaters. What's the situation here? It's mainly an easterly fetch of wind, mainly a little bit more out of the southeast and portions of the Gulf of Mexico and the Bahamas, but wave heights are not that significant. You are seeing that on the bottom side of your screen. Now again, could see some small craft advisories hoisted up here in the short term, and I'll be monitoring that situation, but that's your overall look here over the next 10 days of what's going on with the wind and the waves as far as our mariners go. Okay, back over to the extended forecast. So we're going to look at the GFS model here in the extended. It's going to take me 1 second to reset everything, guys, and I appreciate, again, you liking this video, but I want to talk about what that is going to look like here on the GFS model. So I'm going to loop this up. I'm going to take off some of the other layers because it's just a little bit easier for the computer to pick up on things. And then we're going to kind of break this down. And again, right now, I'm favoring what the solution is for the GFS and the European. I think the NAM's a little bit aggressive overall, especially with the wind fields, but we're going to start to see this GFS play out. Now, first of all, as this begins to loop back up, again, broad heavy rain, South Florida, the Bahamas, Cuba, portions of the Cayman Islands, maybe Jamaica, certainly the Yucatan in Central America come into play for some of this heavier rain. As we get into the extended beyond the 5 days, look what happens here. The rain doesn't move much over the next few days after that as we get towards the end of the week. This is why portions of Florida could be inundated in some of that heavier rain. I'm going to take this out a full 10 days, as a matter of fact, because I want to show you guys how this kind of plays out here eventually. Eventually, what's going to end up happening is some of this moisture is actually going to try and drag back off towards the west just a little bit more. So again, broad spin, nothing too significant, and then some of this moisture tries to eke back off towards the west. Guess what that does? That makes the Yucatan and Central America stay with that richer tropical moisture, because this plume here starts to drag back off towards the west as we get to days 7 to 10, and you have this other system spiraling up and in between. Look at all of that. The bottom line is, guys, this is a wet, active forecast, okay? That doesn't mean that it's going to rain hard every day. That doesn't mean we're going to have tropical depression situation. It just means that this is an area to closely closely monitor. Now, another scenario again are tropical waves coming out of the deep Atlantic here, the Atlantic basin, and you can see that surge of tropical moisture here as we get into days 7 to 10. Here comes our secondary one, and that one could have more impacts for places like Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. It's just a more active scenario here over the next couple of weeks. But let's break down what's going to be happening with this area in the southeast Gulf of Mexico. So now you're looking at the European model low pressure plots. We have a few on the ensemble in the southeast side of the Gulf of Mexico. But remember, there are 50 ensemble members to the European model. So just a few of them showing a weak area of low pressure off of the southwest coast of Florida. This is Friday morning on the European model. This is Friday morning on the GFS model. They are in very good agreement, meaning that if there were to be a very weak area of low pressure, more than likely it would be concentrated in the southeast side of the Gulf of Mexico. More than likely that's not going to happen, or if it does, it would be very weak. But again, drier air north and west, wetter off towards the east. So with this developing system, these are the areas to likely be impacted. We're not talking about any specific hazards at this point in time. These are just the areas that if you lived in, I would be just making sure you tune in, making sure you're weather aware over the next 5 days. Could be some heavy rain, could be some wind. So all of the Bahamas, okay? We'll start to see that weather go downhill starting on Tuesday. The Turks and the Caicos, if certain scenarios play out and that moisture gets shoved far enough east, I would just be mindful of staying abreast to the forecast over the next 5 to 7 days. You're not in the direct impact zone, but things could play out where you might be eventually. Cuba, certainly right in that deep moisture. South Florida, the Cayman Islands, and portions of the Yucatan as well, especially as we get extended into those days 7 to 10. If that moisture comes back west, these areas, especially portions of Central America and the Yucatan, could be impacted fairly significantly. Okay, let's get into rainfall totals now. A lot to talk about, as I said. I don't want to miss anything, but over the next 5 days, and this is just over the next 5 days in the GFS model, you can see that swath of the heaviest rain. And it certainly is going to be concentrated Cuba, southwest, maybe portions of central sides of Florida. And when you see those brighter colors, guys, you're getting into more than a half foot of rain in a lot of spots. You can see that, all right? You know, Key West gets into the action here. And again, every so often this thing lets me do more than one. Sometimes it says, nope, Rusty, you can only do one at a time. But anyway, you get the idea here, and I'm just going to do this, that there could be some very significant rain, central, southern sides of Florida. You get into the Bahamas, and again, it's a little bit spottier, at least through day 5, but there would be even more rain to come after this as well. This would not be the grand total, but as I mentioned, northwest Bahamas first, central and southeast, if this moisture then pushes back off towards the east. But that's why I have the higher rain chances in the northwest side of the Bahamas. Again, here on the GFS, not much going on in the Turks and Caicos. We'll see how that plays out. Just very isolated rain through portions of Hispaniola. Same thing for the Cayman Islands. Again, it's very clear to see we don't have a lot of rain through Puerto Rico and most of the Lesser Antilles until you get down towards Trinidad and Tobago. And again, this is the bullseye for that next tropical wave. So drier areas north, wetter areas south there through the Lesser Antilles. Look at that little gap there in the ABC Islands. Not much there. And then again for Central America. First of all, look at all of the rain off of the Pacific coast. But you can also see all of these bright colors across Central America. So the chance for rain continues. And again, it's just nice to throw on numbers that could be of significance for this area. San Pedro Sula, La Chiba, Roatan, all areas that could get more than an inch, maybe a few inches of rain if it plays out properly. Across the Yucatan, near the border, maybe a few more inches there. But again, you guys are right on the edge of some of that heavier rain drift as well. So broad brush of this, and looking at Bermuda again with just a few showers. A lot of that heavy rain is off there. Bermuda, again, maybe a half inch at most over the next 5 days. But we get the idea of where that swath of heaviest rain is. Take a look at the European model. Okay, that was the GFS. This is the European model. I would say they're in fairly good agreement, don't you guys? Again, right there between Cancun and Cozumel and the west tip of Cuba, and then right through southwest Florida. That's more than a foot of rain, guys. This is in millimeters, but again, 25 millimeters is 1 inch of rain. Okay, so, you know, we get to what? Let's see here, 300 millimeters, that's a foot of rain. And you can see we're getting to those colors. There could be a foot of rain in southwest Florida with some of this activity. Again, drier to our northeast areas. There's the heavier rain down towards Trinidad and Tobago, but certainly it's that swath. Cayman Islands with a lot of rain, and again, a lot of red, which is 75 millimeters or more of rain, additional rain over the next 7 days through a lot of Central America. Whew. Deep breath. Friends, where can you find us? We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook. Got an email address you want to send me a picture or video? That is mymediamundo@gmail.com. You have a specific question about the forecast, drop in the comments section below while you're there. I really do appreciate you liking this video. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting the channel in all the ways that you can. Friends, you have a great rest of your Sunday. I'll keep you updated, and I'll see you tomorrow right here at Meteo Mundo.